Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining. This is our second webinar in the SSIP Planning and Action series. And today we're going to be talking about the pyramid model. And as I try to figure out the technology here, just so you know, for those who don't know me, I'm Ann Brager. I'm a technical assistant consultant with the Part C office at the Infant Toddler Connection of Virginia. And again, today we're going to be talking about one of the first, well, actually it's the second strategy. Next week we'll be talking about the first strategy, which is around assessment and screening. But today we're going to be talking about broad improvement strategy number 2. And last week, Kyla introduced us to our SIMR, which is the 6-year plan to address our state identified measurable result as part of our plan for that we have to report to OSAP, which is increasing the percent of infants and toddlers who substantially increase their rate of growth in the area of positive social emotional skills, including social relationships, by the time they exit early intervention. So as part of that, today we're going to be looking at broad improvement strategy number 2, which is to identify and implement evidence-based service delivery practices to promote positive social emotional development for all eligible infants and toddlers and provide effective intervention to address delays and concerns. So the strategy that was identified by there's been some state implementation leadership teams that included many members of the field that help to identify the strategies and the not only the broad strategies, but the I guess the strategies to address those strategies. And one of them that was identified was the pyramid model, which is an evidence-based service delivery practice that is built on a comprehensive multi-tiered framework of evidence-based practices and promote the social, emotional, and behavioral development of young children. And at the lower level here, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not, but the pyramid model is built on the foundation of an effective workforce, a workforce that's trained in evidence-based practices that support all children, families, and caregivers. And as we'll talk about later, a lot of these practices are already in place in Virginia. We're already using many of them. So at the bottom tier, right above effective workforce, is the universal promotion tier. And that includes the supports necessary for the development, the social and emotional development of all children. So, and if those are the things we do in our practice that encourages nurturing and responsive relationships and high quality environments for all kids, whether they're currently experiencing a delay in social emotional or not. I mean, we want all children to continue to develop those positive social emotional skills. And then the second tier are is the prevention tier, and that's the targeted social emotional strategies used to prevent problems. That level includes the provision of targeted supports to children potentially at risk of challenging behavior, and it includes explicit instruction and support for self-regulation, expressing and understanding emotions, developing social relationships, and problem solving. So, and then finally, the top tier is the intervention tier, and it describes the need to provide individualized and intensive interventions to that small number of children with persistent challenges. And that includes family-centered, comprehensive interventions that are assessment-based and skill building. So, the pyramid works, it's level up. We start with what we want for all children related to, as far as social emotional skills go. And then, at the very top, we're looking at those few children. So how does the pyramid model fit in with current EI practices in Virginia? So we're going to take a look real quick at the 5 primary principles of using the pyramid model in early intervention. And I'm going to, as we go through these principles, I'm going to ask that you guys use your pointers or whatever that Seth is going to talk to us about here in a second to tell me if you've ever used that principle, or if you believe that principle is part of early intervention, or if you've seen others in early intervention use it. So Seth, can you help us out there?
Sure. And did you want to make all of the options appear before I give the instructions here? Great. If you bring your cursor over the shared screen to the top, you should see a green box that says you are viewing your screen. If you click View Options, it should give you a drop down. If you hit the Annotate button, it'll give you an annotation menu. And then if you hover over Stamp, it'll give you 6 stamps to choose by. Pick one that matches your personality, and then you can stamp on the choice of your preference.
Right. Yes. So thank you, Seth. So the first one is practitioners use culturally responsive communication and relationship-based practices that help early interventionists build collaborative partnerships with families and caregivers. So yes, if you've done that, please put your cursors there. Or if you've witnessed that in early intervention or you believe in that. The second one is practitioners use family coaching strategies to meet the needs of all caregivers. Number 3 is the purpose of early intervention is to build each individual caregiver's confidence and competence in using these practices independently. And number 4, providing families with knowledge and skills related to responsive caregiving, nurturing, and responsive relationships. And the last one, number 5, EI supports the family in using tools and strategies to prevent their child's challenging behaviors, address existing challenging behaviors, and ultimately support their child's healthy social and emotional development. So I see lots of stars and hearts and check marks, things like that. So as you can see, you guys are already out there doing these things. These are things that, you know, in Virginia, we've built our foundations of, you know, early intervention, evidence-based practices on. So next we're gonna just talk about, oh, look at all those stars and stripes. So that we're going to talk for just a minute about the pyramid model history in Virginia. If you've been here for a while, you may remember the Project Seed days, and that's when you know, we were trying to build up our infant mental health services, and we received some funding to help implement, encourage, promote our infant mental health services. And a lot of that was centered around the pyramid model. So a lot of our community partners participated in that, child care centers, Head Start, preschool programs. So a lot of them are, and early interventionists. A lot of folks are already well versed in the pyramid model and are using it out in the community. And as we've just talked about, through those five primary principles for using the pyramid model in Part C, many of those evidence-based practices are already in use in Virginia. And then, of course, you know, just building off of our prior SSIP, you know, where coaching was such a huge focus for Virginia, going from, you know, those days of a provider taking a toy bag in to more of a, you know, provider joining with a family in their daily routines and activities and coaching them in strategies that they can incorporate while the provider's not there to promote their child's development. And then, you know, the other thing is there's extensive resources that the pyramid model has to support the use of evidence-based practices in the context of social emotional skills. So it's just a really natural fit for early intervention. And so one of the resources I would just like to take a minute to point out is the early intervention pyramid practices fidelity instrument. So we always want to do everything, of course, with fidelity, and, you know, because we want the best outcomes for children and families. So these are the practice areas that are highlighted in this fidelity instrument that will be a long way in the future. But if you really want to know, you know, learn more about the pyramid model, this is a great instrument to take a look at. And it's long, so we are, you know, and we have permission to adopt it to Virginia's practices. And of course, we would never make it so long, but it really kind of reminds me of the old DEC, when the old DEC, the original one, practices came out. There was a relationship to child and family outcomes document that Virginia kind of adopted as, this is what this practice looks like. And, you know, these are the strategies you can use to enhance your practice. And that's what this document does. So it talks about building partnerships with families, which includes not using jargon, addressing each person by their name, not mom or dad. Number 2, promoting social emotional development, which means observing and asking questions to identify the caregiver's confidence and implementing skills that will build those parent and child interactions through daily routines and activities. Those dyadic relationship indicators, which include, the fact that the provider interacts primarily with the caregiver, and the caregiver interacts with the child. So we're there to support the caregiver and building those relationships. And then, of course, family-centered coaching, and that's collaborating with the caregiver to identify those opportunities in between visits that they can practice new skills during routines and activities. Number 5 is supporting families with children with severe, persistent, challenging behavior. And that's where, for instance, we might work with a caregiver or a parent to identify those times a day where a challenging behavior may occur or not to occur, to kind of, figure out what this stimulus might be. And then number 6, social emotional assessment. And that, looks at whether we're using valid and reliable social emotional screening and assessment tools. And we will talk about that more next week in our next session. So let's talk about, and I apologize, sorry, where the work group is as far as implementing this strategy. So the work group consists of 12 members, providers and LSMs across the state, and we currently meet once a month. And what we're looking at is that statewide implementation, which includes, number 1, sustainability. Whatever we roll out, we want it to be sustainable, recognizing that, new providers enter the field every day, and they may not have this background through their education. And, our seasoned providers retire or they leave the field. So we want to build a system that can support and sustain the pyramid model, for years to come. And we've been really focusing on adult learning principles, recognizing that adults learn best when the information is immediately relevant and important to them. They can practice it, get feedback, and reflect on their experiences, and there's buy-in. We also recognize that there's going to be a lot of professional development activities that are needed, resources that are going to be needed to support implementation statewide, and of course that fidelity measurement and process that we just talked about, where we want to make sure that we're doing this right, so we can have the best outcomes for children and families. So how can you stay in tune with what's going on, stay informed? Every month, the Infant and Toddler Connection of Virginia update goes out, and there's always a SSIP section of that, and a section on the pyramid model, whether it's what is the pyramid model about, links to videos, and current resources. Like I said, the resource library is incredible for supporting those evidence-based practices that, a lot of what we're already using, but in the context of social emotional skills. And also there is the SSIP page of the Infant and Toddler Connection of Virginia website that all of our minutes, our meeting minutes get posted on, and our resources. So you can check that out as well. So that leaves us some time for questions. So I'm going to open it up to you guys for any questions from the field, things that we could clarify. I know I kind of went through things pretty fast. Corey, I can't see the chat, so if anything comes up.
So far, you don't have anything in chat, and I don't have any hands raised that I can see, but we can wait another minute and see if anybody has questions.
Okay, so while we're waiting, just heads up about our third SSIP Planning and Action Series will be next Thursday at 3 o'clock, September 21st. And that'll be about focused on that screening and assessment piece, recognizing that some of our comprehensive screening tools aren't the best in identifying children with social emotional concerns. So we are looking at more of a targeted assessment, screening and assessment tool, tool that might help pick up those kids that may have been, maybe missed by the ELAP, for example.
And you have a question from Beth. Any assessment that's been written since COVID 2019? Is there anything new?
Assessment wise?
I believe that's the question. Beth, feel free if you want to unmute. She said yes. Assessment wise, has anything new? Is anybody looking at any instruments? I'm filling in the gap, Beth, like I kind of know what you're asking, but feel free to unmute. She's going, yes, like I think I got the question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and Beth, oh my gosh, I wish, it takes years and years for assessment instruments to be developed and, reliability and validity established. And oh my gosh, if you know of something out there, please let us know. And, that's one of the real drivers behind all of this, is the fact that we are seeing this increase in children experiencing social emotional delays or at risk of being kicked out of childcare facilities and whatnot, because of COVID, they were denied all those things that they would have normally been exposed to, grandparents, being out in the community around cousins, on playgrounds, all that kind of thing. So,
Beth, it sounds like you have your work cut out for you. Like I can see a whole new job for you, Beth.
yes, call me.
She says, ha ha ha. And so far, we can pause for a minute and see if anybody has any other questions. There's nothing else in chat. While you are thinking about that, just a reminder that Seth is recording today. You all who are on today are automatically registered for the next two. So as Anne said, next Thursday and then the last Thursday of September. If you have other colleagues who are interested, these are getting posted, the recordings very quickly on the VEIPD YouTube channel. I don't know, I can't do this fast, but Seth or Lisa, if you could find that that list and put it in chat, that would be great. But that's where the recordings are being housed. Somebody had also asked us if there was a way to link it to the Part C SSIP page, and it is linked. It's going back to the YouTube channel that weave through the Virginia Early Intervention Professional Development Center. So that it is linked there. And Tracy says, thanks, Anne. It was great information. You did a beautiful job. I see. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa's dropped the YouTube playlist that again, you'll be able to get the recording from today. It usually takes a couple hours.
Yes.
Christy is asking Anne, is there going to be any additional training on coaching for those new staff members who may need it?
Well, yeah, so of course, like coaching is part of the pyramid model, and we hope to enhance that aspect of any of our professional development that we roll out around the pyramid model. But yes, I mean, Christy, you bring up a great point as far as sustainability, and Corey, you may want to jump in. I mean, that's one of the big things that we learned from coaching, where everybody loves face-to-face trainings, and I do too, because you get to network and partner and problem solve with people face-to-face. But sustainability after those face-to-face trainings are sometimes an issue.
Yeah, and I think I could jump in too a little bit. And so in particularly, we've talked in the work group, but back in you guys, it was like 2012, 2013, 2014, when we were doing all of that coaching training, and we had master coaches. There has been so much that has transpired since then, that coaching is really a relationship based practice. It's not a model, it's not approach, and the pyramid model aligns beautifully with all of that. With that also said, you all might be aware that through the professional development team, we are offering a pilot of what is being called dimensions, and it's evidence-based practices for practitioners. So for service coordinators, we have Kaleidoscope. For practitioners, we now have dimensions, which is in its first cohort happening right now. At the end of this pilot, which will finish in January, we're going to look at, did we hit the mark? Do we have the right content? Coaching is definitely part of that. And we have 30 practitioners currently enrolled in that. So we'll be getting their feedback, what needs to be changed. So that will be offered more frequently once we get through this pilot. There's also work from the VEIPD, and that we are going to be updating the coaching facilitation handbook. which is available online. I strongly encourage you all, if you have not looked at our coaching page, if somebody wants to drop that in chat, there are so many resources that it's not really, we need some sort of people get together and train. We need to keep using our resources. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa just dropped it in the chat. Christy, I'm happy to answer any more questions. But I really think Christy said she feels like the pyramid model does not effectively address coaching. But what the pyramid model does do is talk about those relationship-based practices, which is what coaching is about. And we also have the coaching tools for fidelity that are being used in Virginia. I don't know if there's anybody else from the State Part C office that wants to jump in, but please feel free. I just kind of tried to tag with what Anne was saying.
Yeah, thank you, Corey. And yeah, we will be, all the professional development activities and the resources, everything we build will be centered around coaching, because Virginia 100% backs the coaching philosophy. The pyramid model is built on Dathan and Melissa's coaching principles, so it will be first and foremost in all of the implementation materials, trainings, activities that roll out. So hopefully, to address those needs for folks that have, are concerned that we're going to lose coaching in this, or
actually enhancing coaching. You're right.
It is.
It's
exactly
enhancing our coaching.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with the pyramid model is all about coaching families and caregivers to support their child, not only when the coach is there, but more importantly, when the coach isn't. So it's all about joint planning and those things that will be worked on in between sessions.
And with that, Anne, I don't see any other questions. Nothing else is showing in chat.
Okay, well, my email address is up there, so feel free to reach out at any time with any of your questions or suggestions, ideas as we move forward. And we look forward to seeing you next week.